Thanks for those who have supported us. You won't be sorry. There are championships coming. It's going to be a really fun ride.
The Wildcats Roundup is brought to you by Bardini's Country Smokehouse, where the best meats make the best meals.
Hey Gabby, catch this.
Win with Bardini's. We're #1 for meats in Westmoreland. So many delicious varieties and flavors. Best meats, best holiday meals. So come in, fill this basket at our Country Smokehouse in Crabtree. Go Wildcats!
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Wildcats Roundup here on the Wildcats Network YouTube channel. I'm Richard Hillig alongside with Tristan Moreland, and today we've come to you live from the Greater Latrobe Student Store here at Greater Latrobe Senior High School. The Wildcats Store, your den, starts here. And Tristan, we're back with another basketball roundups, and this time we're talking about the boys basketball team, which they missed the playoffs by one game, but they have a lot to be excited for this upcoming season.
Oh, absolutely. When you have players like John Wetzel and Jaton Williams, both of them playing, and a lot of new faces that we didn't see last year play on this team. Wait, Richard, this is going to be a bit of a hot take. I'm saying Wildcats boys basketball team are not only making it to the Whitfield playoffs, I expect to see them in the semifinals. I know that's a bit of a hot take, but I'm serious. We have seen them in practice. We have seen what to expect from them, and I'm telling you, this is a year where Wildcats basketball is bringing a playoff game back to the den.
Well, for the Wildcats, it was a 2-year absence from the playoffs, but they're looking to get back there this year. After an 8-14 record from a season ago, they only missed the playoffs by just one game a season ago, and it was due to their losses against Penn Trafford and Gateway in the final week of the regular season. But I think we can all agree that even with a losing record, Brad Wetzel pushed all the right buttons last year, and he got this team where they needed to be at the end of the year.
And Richard, you're absolutely right. Now, last season, Wildcats overall record didn't have a winning record, and it was more important the fact that their section record, that's why they didn't make it. But remember those teams, Penn Trafford and Gateway. Those are two teams that they weren't able to beat last year. That is a hump that they're going to have to get over this year. Because guess what? Gateway and PT, they didn't go anywhere. And if anything, they got better this last offseason. So if you are Brad Wetzel and you are the Wildcats, you got to keep that in the back of your mind. You have to remember these are teams that we have to beat if we want to. I think we talked whenever we were at practice, you and I talked about how if they at least split with Gateway and PT, I think we're going to see playoff basketball here at Greater Latrobe. And I will say this, I think that they can do that. And I think with a coach like Brad Wetzel, anything's possible.
Well, in order to get playoff basketball back at the den, they're going to have to do it without two key seniors in Landon Butler and Tyler Mondock, but also they should get some much-needed contributions from players like Kyle McNeil and Ian DeSerb.
And it's really important that players like DeSerb and McNeil are able to step up because of the fact that they lost a really big player last year. They lost Landon Butler, and that was key for their team. And we mentioned in the girls episode, whenever we talked about Emma Blair, the fact that it's interesting to see what happens when key players on a team that have really shaped the organization as a whole. I know, high school basketball, but just hear me out. When you have the Butler brothers, every single one that have been on that Wildcats basketball team have made such a huge impact. It'll be interesting to see how this team moves on without Landon. Yes, they have Max, but I want to see what Max can do. Can he be better than Landon? I think it's possible.
Is he on track to get 1,000 points like his other three brothers? I would say yes.
I agree, Richard.
The pressure's on him, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it is on him now, but I agree with you. I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibilities. I think that's very realistic. But it'll be interesting to see how Coach Wetzel and the team as a whole moves on from Landon.
He said championships are coming, is all I'm saying.
He did, absolutely. Richard, the man with the receipts, as always, mentioning the fact that Coach Wetzel mentioned in his postseason interview last year, the championships are coming. And I think that he's right with that. I think with this team, with players like John Wetzel and Jaton Williams and other players stepping up to new roles, I think that that's very realistic.
With this team ready to make the final steps towards the playoffs and also compete in the playoffs, let's go find out from Brad Wetzel himself here at the Wildcat Den.
Thanks, Richard. Here in the Wildcat Den, Tristan Boyle alongside me is the one and only Coach Brad Wetzel. First of all, Coach, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with me. I know that you have a very limited amount of time. First of all, I want to start by talking about the practices. I've been to a lot of practices in my life, and I've never seen anything so intense and fast-paced as your practices. What are you seeing out of your players by having practices that are built like yours are?
Well, first of all, Tristan, thanks for all you guys do. I mean, this is for what you guys do is for this community and what you did all season long in the last couple of years for these kids, especially through COVID. I appreciate it. And And I appreciate that observation. That means a lot to us because we try to say we practice harder than anybody. And,
I would agree with that statement.
and the intensity, that speed that you see right there, we're not anywhere near where we need to be. So, but I appreciate that. That's the kind of stuff that leads to culture. You hear that word a lot. I think it's misused a lot today in sports. But that's the kind of stuff that leads to, I think, games maybe being won that we maybe shouldn't. That's what we're trying for, and that's why you see that kind of intensity.
So, Coach, you mentioned the fact that you won some games that some kind of doubt you won, ended the season with an 8-14 record. Now, with the way that your section is shaping up, PT, Franklin Regional, Kiski are only getting better and better as the offseason goes on. Do you think that your team is going to be able to get over that hump? I talked to Richard in the pre-show that you guys have to have a winning record if you want to see yourselves be in playoff contention. Do you think that that's possible?
I do. I think it's absolutely possible, and I think it's going to happen. These kids, they've got a mindset, and obviously we've had some setbacks to start the season, but that doesn't change things. And that sounds cliche, but I think the proof will be in the pudding. Obviously December is going to be a different month than we've ever really had. So I would just say it's a work in progress, and we need December more than ever to kind of get ourselves ready for section play. Because to your point, I've never seen a better section top to bottom. There is absolutely nobody that can't beat us, and there's nobody that we can't beat. And so it's going to come down to, I think, the things that you saw today: the discipline, the execution, and the little things.
So, Coach, when we talk about your section, teams like PT, teams like Franklin Regional, teams like Kiski, your team, for the most part, is very young. Do you think that your young players are going to be able to step up to that kind of a challenge to play teams like Penn Trafford and Franklin Regional?
Well, I think, the process has been that last year was supposed to be that year where we paid the price, and that this year that experience was to be paid off. So I really believe, as far as young, yeah, we have some youth, but there's a lot of experience out there that needs to come through. The price we paid last year needs to be seen this year. So there's some guys out there. You and I talked earlier. They've got to perform, and not once in a while. Like, they're going to have to be consistent performers for us.
So you talk about players who were consistent performers last year. One of them, you had one of the Butler brothers. You had Landon, and he was absolutely phenomenal for your team. But he's gone now. He graduated last season. So what are you doing to be able to fill a void left by a player like Landon Butler?
Well, I think it's a great question. That's one part everybody's asking. And there's a lot of points and a lot of assists and a lot of steals leaving the gym, right? And I think that that's what culture does. So you're not always going to have Landon Butlers. You're not always going to have, throw in the blank. In the last 20-some years, we've had some tremendous players. So we've got to do this by committee. That has to happen through consistency. So that youth thing you talked about, that's gone now. These guys should be playing like seniors.
So you mentioned players that were a little bit more green last season are expected to be a little bit more seasoned, a little bit more well-rounded. One of those players who I saw that really impressed me is Mr. Ian DeServe. He is an absolute freak of nature when I see him out there playing. How do you plan to plug a player like him into your offense and defense and really make him shine?
Yeah, he's not going to be plugged in. If he is, that's going to be on his mistake, because right now we see him as somebody who's going to be in the starting lineup, giving us big minutes. If not, his jumping ability, his athleticism that you saw, we just got to make sure Ian understands the system. I think he's come a long way. This summer was good for him. Big things are expected. Obviously, we were hoping to team him and Alex up together, and it might not happen. So, Ian's going to have to grow up real fast.
So we talk about your lineup. We talked about it ad nauseum here. And something that's really interesting about your lineup, a lot of your players are transitioning from the football season to come and play basketball. What are some benefits, but also some negatives that you can take away from players having that level of chemistry, but also, they're coming off of a very big season?
Well, Tristan, you mentioned one thing I was going to say is the strength. There's a lot of neat chemistry with the football guys that come back. And so the negative side, you lose the preseason essentially. You don't have that preseason. Everybody's going somewhere October or early November. They're doing, our guys are playing football. But I'm one to think that it's a total benefit. A kid playing 3rd and 1 under the lights at Aliquippa, what that does for a person's mentality and psyche and toughness. Unfortunately for us, there's a risk to it. And, we're on that side of it this year with some injuries. We're starting the season without certain players, and that's hard. But that's just a risk. It's inherent, I think, in multi-sport players. But it more benefits than not. I think those kids, what they have to do. Now, we work in the preseason, but to be in those games like you saw, needing first downs, needing stops, all that goes a long way, I think, towards winning. And that's what we want to do. And even though we're doing it with a round ball and not an oblong one, I think it translates.
So we talk about the football team and how successful they were during their season. Wildcat basketball. It's been 2 years, Coach, since we have seen playoff basketball played here at the Den. Is it a realistic expectation for us to see playoff basketball return back to Greater Latrobe this year?
Yeah, that's going to change, Tristan. There's no doubt about it. That, it's going to happen. We're going to be back. We're going to be winning games, exciting games. This place is going to get packed. It's all going to happen. 2 years that was tough to swallow, but it was a price that we had to pay, I think, for our situation and the youth that we were playing with. Now there's no excuses. It's on us.
Coach Brad Wetzel, as always, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
So now, with that, that's all the time I have. We're going to send it to Richard and Max Butler as they talk about Max's upcoming season next on the Wildcats Roundup.
Max, talking about from last year to this year, how do you think last year's season as a whole helped you and this team progress as a whole?
I think it kept us humbled, because we went on a losing season. So I think it's gonna bring us a lot better. I think our chemistry's gonna be a lot better.
Now, normally from season to season in high school sports, graduation plays a key factor. It isn't the case for this team this year. So how do you think that's gonna help benefit you guys as far as the chemistry and connection this year?
I think the connection is gonna be really well this year. We've been together for multiple years now. I think we know what we're doing. I think this is a team that could probably win sections this year.
And now one of the 4 seniors that graduated from last year's team was your brother Landon. And I know that coming into Wildcat basketball, he was a big part of you being a key piece for this team. So what is it like not going to be having Landon around the team for you personally and for this team as a whole this year on a day-to-day basis?
It's gonna be different, He was the leader last year, and I feel like I gotta take his spot now and lead the team to success.
Last year, you guys had some big wins late in the season to give you guys yourself a chance in the playoff push, like at Penn Trafford, at home against Kiski, and at Franklin Regional. So how do you guys take some of the attributes from those games last year and translate them even more so this year?
I feel like we were just ready because we knew our backs were against the wall, and if we lost, we were out of the playoff contention. So I think we just came into the game locked in, mindset was there. So hope that can change for this year.
And with this team in particular, it's very junior heavy. You, John Wetzel, and Brady Perhovic kind of lead that way, along with Kyle McNeil. Is it a comfort knowing that you guys have that chemistry and connection? And what will you guys have to do as far as kind of carry that load? Because I know Jatana Quidarius, they're going to be your senior leaders this year. But what will you guys have to do as far as supplementary?
I feel like we just got to have each other's backs this year, Coming into this year, I feel like we all know each other. I feel like we can have a great year. And then I feel like J and Q just are a good piece to us too.
Now at the end of last season, head coach Brad Wetzel told me that championships are coming for this team. How do you guys get there this year and get back to playoff basketball?
I feel like we just got to go game by game, bid off each game, each win. Just go as far as we can. I think it's coming.
Max, thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
And with that, this concludes another episode of the Wildcats Roundup here on the Wildcats Network YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. Our first broadcast for the Wildcats basketball team will be December 12th at Quaker Valley.